Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explain series. I am Kushagra Goel. And yesterday, a lot of you also once again had budget related doubts. So on that note, we'll first begin with those kinds of doubts. I will then come back to the Myanmar conflict, right? And explain it in a short while of what it actually is, right? And all the doubts related to that. And I hope all of you did check out the Google Drive link and the description of old doubts and got your doubts clarified, right? So on that note, I'll be reading out comments one by one, right? So a lot of students had doubts about what is market orthodox, fiscal orthodox, growth rate less than interest rate, and what is fiscal conservatism. So understand it, break whenever you can't understand certain words, break them down, right? So orthodox, who are people considered orthodox, who could be stated that they be rooted in old values, right? So for example, the kilogram measurement was changed last year, right? Instead of a metal, then it was changed to a mathematical formula. So people who still measure kilogram in terms of a metallic value then would be considered orthodox, right? Similarly, originally in orthodox mindset, women were not considered equal in combat situations, but now Indian armed forces have women officers in combat situations. So people who still believe that women are unequal to men or are not equal to men could be considered orthodox, right? Then conservatism, right? Conservative is someone who is frugal, who does not want. So let's say you have 100 rupees to spend. A person who is spendthrift would spend out of 180 rupees on his lavish luxury goods. But someone who is conservative or is known as conservative would be like, I have 100 rupees, I will only spend 50, I will save the next 50 for next month. What if the income falls? What if something happens? So I will save it. So those kind of people are known as conservative, right? Now, in fiscal conservatism, it could be stated again that government is being fiscally conservative, that it has money but it is not spending it, right? Now, fiscal orthodox, the original idea was that if you have 100 rupees and you spend 110, that is a limit that you should not breach. So ideally, you should only have a 5% debt margin, which was known as in fiscal orthodox mindset. The editorial that we discussed yesterday stated that now governments or there is economic understanding that you can spend beyond that limit, right? So that is beyond what was fiscally orthodox mindset, right? Then what is the gap between growth rate and interest rate? Interest rate is what? Let's say you took a loan of 100 rupees from a friend. He stated that I will charge 2% interest to you, right? And you have to pay this back to me in 30 days. So that is interest rate. Similarly, what is growth? So you know that your salary right now is 98, but it will grow by 4 rupees, right? So you know that you have a gap of 2 rupees because by the end of 30 days, your salary will be 104 or 102 rupees, right? 98 abhi 4. So you will have equal amount of money as per the interest rate that you have to pay. Now let's say if your income is going to grow by 5 rupees, then you will have 1 rupee difference even after paying back the debt. So that is what we talked about yesterday, that in case your growth rate is more than the interest rate that you have to pay, you can spend more money, right? So that is what this editorial talked about yesterday. Then Myanmar related doubts I'll address at the end. Another doubt that students had was about asset monetization and how is it different from normal monetization. So let's say I have purchased this phone. This is my asset, right? Now I say that I will charge 10 rupees to people who want to use this phone to make a call, right? So what I am doing, I have purchased this asset, I am monetizing it further. I am earning more money out of this asset. Similarly, when government creates asset such as highways, metro services, right? Monetization, asset monetization means that, for example, the government builds the highway, then tells someone else that, see, you can take toll out of it. So that is government monetizing the asset, right? So for people who want to use the asset, they have to pay for it, right? So that is a methodology of asset monetization, right? When government does it through different forms, that is asset monetization. Normal monetization, asset monetization is all the same. There is no difference. You will monetize anything that has some value, right? Which is valuable to someone else who wants to use it by giving you certain money or fees in return for that, right? So there is no difference in that, right? Then a little bit more about government planning to give control of banks to corporate. Does it have any relevance to bad banks? Will it affect the bad banks too? Now, government disinvesting from bank is one matter. Government creating a bad bank to reduce the debt of current banks is a different policy measure, right? So nowadays you also have private banks. Private banks are functioning all fine, right? But originally private banks were not existent in India, right? When banking was originally as apparatus was established, there were still gaps within that, right? There were no banks in rural areas. Private sector was not interested in going to rural areas. So the government started its own banks, right? Now that need is not there. So the government has realized ki let private sector handle it. We don't need to do that. So that is one thing. Now bad banks are those debts. So debt of public sector banks will be transferred to bad banks, right? So that is a separate policy measure altogether. Then what is social security? What is difference between rural security and urban social security? Social security are basically a safety net. So for example, when there is a problem that you face in life, you can fall back on your friends, fall back on advice of your family members. That is a security that you have. Social security is similar to that, right? For example, women are given social security in the sense that they are provided milk product, there is given income support if they are on a lactating stage, right? Government is giving out free vaccines right now to frontline workers. So that is also social security, that you don't have to depart from your own income. We are doing it on your behalf, right? So that is another measure of social security. In rural areas, the demand would be different. For example, farmers need social security in the sense of insurance for their crops against floods or drought. In urban areas, social security will be different. That is cheap housing, rented households, all of that. So different needs in different areas, right? Then moving ahead, what is the limit of borrowing? Right? So do governments have a limit? How much can you borrow? Ideally, you would borrow, someone would let you borrow if, for example, you go and take a loan from the bank, right? So then the bank will be like, what collateral do you have? You will say, I have a collateral of this land whose value, which value is 100. So bank will be like, okay, we will lend you 90 rupees and you keep this 100 rupees as collateral with us. Governments again also have this limit. How much can they spend? So based on your income and how much you are going to earn, that is your normal limit of spending. Governments, because they are sovereigns, can spend a little bit more. So how much can you spend beyond your pocket is known as your limit of borrowing. All right. So these were doubts from the budget. Then there was normal doubt about the conflict in Myanmar. So Myanmar is a parliamentary system, a unitary parliamentary system that is similar to United Kingdom. There are no federal states like India has Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. There is no such structure in Myanmar. They have one parliament, right? Within that, the parliament had 25% reservation for the military. So in both the houses, there is 25. In toto, that also becomes 25% reservation for the military, right? Then there was doubt ki what is happening in Myanmar. For example, on Republic Day, different armed forces saluted to the President of India. The fact that they saluted to a president meant that they were willing to obey his or her orders. Military coup is a situation when military chief decides that, see, I will not obey your orders anymore. So what has General Liang done in Myanmar? He has stated that, see, this elected government is incompetent. The country is facing a threat because of them, and therefore the military has taken over the apparatus of governance, right? So they have made a coup d'etat or taken a military coup. That is the situation that has happened in Myanmar. Now, because what is military? Military is a non-democratic institution. They are not elected by the people, right? But a government such as Aung San Suu Kyi, she was an elected person. So the military coup has now taken over, that is military is now in charge. Now the developments are happening, how long the coup lasts, what will happen. As of status quo, we'll see that Aung San Suu Kyi has been put under house arrest and charges have been filed against her also, and the incumbent president. So those are developing situations. If you have any further doubt, feel free to put them in the comment section. On that note, we'll begin with today's newspaper, right? So on the front page, massive gatherings in Haryana and different places about Mahapanchayats against the farm laws are taking place, right? Now within that, on the left hand side, there is a story that is government had issued notice to Twitter. That is, Twitter is a private organization and government issued notice that there is certain content that we believe should not be on your platform. Now the Twitter, being a private organization, has stated that no, based on their community policy, that content is fine and they will not remove it. So the developing story is that government will probably take penal action against a private organization for not following its orders, right? Now this is a technical area, that one, there is no specific law in India that governs such platforms or internet social media handles, that what can be there, what cannot be there. Each platform has its own policies. What is correct on Facebook may not be correct on Twitter. What is correct on Twitter may not be correct on Facebook. All these social media handles or companies have their own standard. Because India does not have one uniform law, there is always scope for discretion and dispute, that what the government believes is correct and what the platforms believe is correct. So this is a developing story here. All right. So, right. Then moving ahead, the Bihar government has come up with a notification. The notification is that there will be character certificate issued to each people before being appointed in government jobs. And if you have a negative character certificate, that is, you have undertaken or taken parts in protest and charge sheet has been filed against you, then you will not be fit for appointment in government jobs, right? So we'll have to see what this is. Is it challenged? Is it approved? As of today, this is the law, right? Excuse me. Then moving ahead, on the national front again, political news, different news. This is about Delhi police putting up cash reward for these people. Deep Sandhu, one of the person who was accused by the farmer unions as someone who was involved or actively instigated the violence on 26th January. So the Delhi police have put up a cash reward for anyone who has information about his whereabouts, right? Moving ahead, on the national news again, legislature panels have a power to summon witnesses. This is again the ongoing case between the Delhi Assembly issuing a notice to Facebook to appear before it, and the dispute Facebook telling that, see, you cannot do this to us. So this is ongoing proceeding. Whatever the court decides is something that really matters for us. All right. Then moving ahead, on the editorial front, right? All of this is the main editorial again is speculation and policy about Joe Biden. These are repetitive editorials now, what he thinks, what will happen, what is going to go on, scope of India in Afghanistan peace process, outlook for India. All of these are speculative. We have to be reliant on facts, that what Joe Biden actually undertakes as a policy step, right? Then on the left hand side, urban visions, metro rail and buses will help with mobility, but sound urbanization needs policy reform. Now this is two kinds of policy debates that is this editorial talking about. One, India has a very low percentage of buses per 1,000 people. That India, for example, has only 1.2 buses for each 1,000 people in India, which is far less than countries such as Thailand, which has 8.6 buses, or South Africa, which is 6.5. Generally, for better mobility in cities and reduction or increasing public transportation, the better buses and higher the number of buses, the better would be public transport system. Now the budget has come up with the focus that it wants to expand metro and bus services in urban areas. So this is the impetus of government, that there is a need. Now the second part of this editorial is, why is this not there in India, is because urban cities are their planning is not decentralized. Each urban city cannot decide on its own. It is dependent on the state government. In developed countries such as the Western Europe or America, cities have their own, so we have municipal councils or municipalities, but they are reliant on funds from the state government or the central government for their funds. They are not independent about the taxes or how they can spend that money. Now, and this is the problem. So, urbanization then takes a toll. People are not self-governing, which is what the editorial tells, that this will improve in India in general if urban centers can decide on their own will. Alright, then all to play for. This is about India-Australia series. Whosoever wins the series, India needs to win the series by a margin of 2, at least win 2 test matches to qualify for the final of World Test Championship. England, on the other hand, has to win 3 test matches to qualify for the World Test Championship. This is the inaugural World Test Championship. Whosoever wins this test series by these margins, they will face New Zealand in the final. If India and England both do not win 2 or 3 test matches respectively, then Australia will qualify. Alright, then no vaccine nationalism, yes to global cooperation. So this is an analysis that there should be no vaccine nationalism. That is, countries should generally cooperate. So this is a appraisal of India's policy, which has relied on vaccine cooperation, that while we are ongoing with our vaccinization drive, we have also sent vaccines to different other countries, right? And but certain countries in the West, what they have done, they have approved, let's say, Pfizer and Moderna vaccine and taken up orders or future contracts, advance purchase contracts, more than the required level that they actually need, right? So this is vaccine nationalism, what they have done, and then there is vaccine cooperation that India and China have been doing, right? For example, yesterday Pakistan's vaccine program started. They have started this on the Chinese vaccine of Sinopharm. A lot of other countries in Middle East also and Latin America have done it on Chinese vaccines. Similarly, India has provided vaccines to Brazil and other countries in our neighborhood, right? Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, right? Or even in Middle East to Muscat, Oman. So this is India and China taking up vaccine cooperation, right? And then there is known as the COVAX project. Now this is a common project by the WHO, that people will pool in resources to this project and then they will provide vaccines to countries who are least developed, such as African countries, right? Now US has decided to join this project, is what the update is. We'll have to see how much this project actually takes off, and because other countries are at the same time working on their own also, right? Then moving ahead, on the left hand side is about political analysis of Asaduddin Owaisi and how his politics has developed over time. And then on the left hand side, towards sustainable growth, economic models of today must be reimagined to take into account biodiversity and natural ecosystem. So in general, there is a consensus, or the government stated that, see, this budget that we have announced is pro growth, right? This will impart on growth, this will improve the growth. At the same time, yesterday and day before yesterday, when we were reading the budget, we noticed how the government has reduced the funding for environment ministry, cultural ministry, right? Now this analysis is a criticism of pure growth chasing, right? For example, China had fueled its growth, right? Growth in double digits by doing what? Chinese party, Communist Party, what it used to do, it used to build townships, then demolish those townships in 2 years, then rebuild them again. So based on growth figures, how GDP is calculated, it would seem there is new construction activity taking place. So Chinese economy is taking off. Now, but in reality, China is still a very unequal society. Similarly, in growth, while we may be growing at a higher percentage, we may grow or not grow, the concern is inequality in India is rising. This editorial states that, see, the fact that we faced a pandemic was because we had hampered or impeded upon natural ecosystem. If we do not control this urge of unprecedented growth and affect natural ecosystems, we will suffer even more. So our growth should be sustainable, should be towards, while growth, we should also take care of our ecosystems and natural resources, and only that kind of growth will be long lasting. All right, then moving ahead, the smart walls for Indian borders. So this is calling for a virtual surveillance system of India's borders, that everyone's phone or details should be tracked, that rather than building physical walls, we should have technical walls where people can be tracked all together. All right. Then the data point again is talking about analysis of expenditure of health in general, which is out of pocket expenditure, OOPE. India has a very high out of pocket expenditure, that for healthcare people have to spend a lot more money out of their pockets, which is a reason of which is because, one, the state does not invest enough in healthcare services. All right, and then there is analysis how many states spend how much and how much consumers have to spend on their own. All right, then moving ahead on the other national news, right? So the Aero India's show has been going on in Bangalore, the 13th edition of Aero India, right? Again, this has been held in Bangalore only. Previously it is where HAL is located. All right. So yesterday the show began, and it began with India signing a deal for Tejas aircraft, right? Mark 1A. We have discussed about this deal previously, right? So the point of the show is to expand or to tell other people that, see, to other countries who want to purchase defense equipments, that, see, you can purchase Indian equipments which are equally superior or equal to countries from the West. All right. Then moving ahead, from the parliament, the discussion about the farm bills has not yet taken place, and in general in the Rajya Sabha side, Ghulam Nabi Azad, who is the leader of Congress party in the Rajya Sabha, stated that, see, you should take back the farm laws and it should not become a prestige issue. All right. Then moving ahead, on the national front, there is no real news for us apart from that. There is one international news that matters to us, which is about the New START Treaty. All right. The New START Treaty, so we'll be talking about this in a little bit more depth at the end. All right. Then moving ahead, there was one big news about Jeff Bezos. Amazon, as you know, all of you must have accessed or used Amazon at some point of time. So Amazon's founder, that is Jeff Bezos, will be stepping down from CEO and will be taking up a position of executive chairman. Who will become the new CEO of Amazon? It will be Andy Jassy. All right. So this is a person in news update because Amazon is one of the biggest company. This is a news that you all need to know, right? Then moving ahead, on the sporting front, no real news. Therefore, we'll move ahead, right? So about the New START Treaty. So we had discussed that US and Russia were in talks about extending the New START Treaty. Now there is confirmation that they have done so. What is the New START Treaty? It is a precursor to the START 1 treaty signed by US and Soviet Union in 1991. Originally, New START was signed in 2010 in Prague. All right. And what is the name of the treaty? It is known as Measures for Further Reduction and Limitation of Strategic Offensive Arms. What does it control? It controls intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs and nuclear warheads, and the number of bombers and vehicles through which such bombs can be launched. So the upper limit on such warheads based on the New START treaty is 1550. At the height of Cold War, US and Soviet Union had almost 8,000 nuclear weapons, right? So these START treaties have led to a reduction from 8,000 to 1,550. All right. Now the treaty will extend up to 2026. Donald Trump, before going away, had stated that he will not renew this treaty because he wanted China to comply with this treaty also. Chinese nuclear warheads are considered to be approximately less than 600 as of today. So it does not make sense that a country that does not have that many nuclear weapons to be limited by it, in the sense of countries. Instead, the START treaties are focused on countries who already have more than the limit of such nuclear weapons. It would be better, and US has stated that they would address all such and take measures to reduce the danger from China's modern and growing nuclear arsenal. So they believe that let's do this at this point of time, and overall we will try to come up with a mechanism where we can include China also. Alright, so this is an international treaty that is in news, so you have to make a note of that. Right, so on today's newspaper, the most important news was about the START treaty, when it was signed first, what does it do, what is the original name of that treaty, right? The signature of this treaty was done in Prague by Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev. All right. So on that note, on February 4, there is one important news. Apart from that, there is just mere updates and not so much from academic point of view. On that note, thank you so much. If you like the work that we are doing, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, do subscribe to it.